Hey everyone, let's start healing. I'm Adrianne Murchison, and welcome to episode 111 of the Let's Start Healing podcast. We have more in common than we think, and what we have in common can change the world. Well, I am joined by my family, fellow podcasters, Charles Gilbert, and who is my cousin, and John Russell Murchison, who is my nephew. They have been on in the past. And as a matter of fact, this conversation was inspired by a podcast conversation I had with Russ during episode 100, my milestone episode that reflected back on previous conversations with my guests. During that conversation, Russ and I talked about a lot of things that are going on currently and with each other in our own lives and in our respective lives. And one of the things that he brought up was about how he lives his life. And he's a very grounded person, and he has a very tight circle, a small, tight circle, which I am happy to be included in. And as we were talking, I was thinking about the scripture in the Bible, what really matters in life, and what is our purpose, and does anything really matter? And that just stayed on my mind as the weeks have gone on. And I decided that I wanted to have a podcast conversation about this. Well, this is not quite that. We started and planned to have that conversation, and we went down that road, but then we took a turn, we took a little detour, and we started talking about relationships. And that's what this segment of the conversation is about. And within that conversation, we took another turn because Charles brought up the idea of women being in relationships and being what's perceived as too independent. And I took note of that and wanted to talk about that. And that turned into a little back and forth with me and Russ. So it gets pretty interesting. Offline, Russ and I have a disagreement, a difference of opinion about what independent means. And offline, he and I were talking, and I pulled up in our conversation the definition of independent, which has many, many different meanings to it. And we still didn't come to agreement. But what the three of us definitely agree about is that communication is essential in a relationship. Absolutely essential. So this is going to be interesting and a little potent. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think. And the conversation on, hey, what really matters? What is this life really about? Is going to be in another episode with these two and another guest that I have a conversation with. So let's get started. Let's meet again, Charles and Russ. Let's start healing.
More recently, I've been watching how the relationships, how the dating scene is now, and how I feel though as if like we're in a time where a lot of women are more tapped into their masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the Steve Harveys of the world have something to do with it. With the sense, with the sense of just like how he did his Think Like a Man, and how all these women are, and his think pieces and all this stuff, like all over talking about how women are just more, have become more independent, which is not a bad thing. But when you become too independent, you feel like you don't need a man for anything. And then you just start to demean the man. it it triggers something in me that makes me go back. Like I just had this conversation with a friend last night because she was saying how her boyfriend had asked like, "Hey, do you miss me?" And she just basically, no, like, what do you mean? Like, kind of just blew him off. And she was like, I gotta stop. I gotta like learn how to be more like like express my feelings more. And I was just like, you have to be in tune with your feminine energy. And she was like, I know, but it's just hard because I'm like a thug out here in, in her terms. But it's just like I don't, I it's those like it's those topics of relationships
I get what
that
you're saying.
I like when before I deactivated the So in the Meantime Instagram, there was a lot of posts that I had on there that was my brother was saying. He was like, yo, people are hitting me up asking me what is wrong with you because you're doing like you're poking at these conversations. And I was like, because they're conversations that need to be had.
Yeah.
Like the dating scene now is so it's just horrible.
So
what you got to do is you got to have that conversation with somebody, though. You know what I mean? Like you got to start bringing some women on and just having a one-on-one conversation and let them say their piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know just out of observation and when my wife and I talk about stuff, whether we're watching some kind of dating show or reality TV show, she feels like women are doing a lot of this stuff out of necessity. You know what I'm saying? Not because they don't want to be gentle or they don't want to be taken care of, but a lot of the men out here have dropped the ball. And she's in a perfectly, healthy relationship. But we're just observing other people's relationships and what problems they're going through at the time when we're watching it on TV. So, I mean, I feel like it's a good time, but it's also touchy. So I get it.
Yeah.
And I think it's touchy. I think it gets touchy when you get away from, and when I say you, I mean people, get away from, if people start talking from their head and their ego, then it gets touchy. But if you're talking about, well, I feel alone. I'm in this relationship and I feel alone, and I really want to feel loved, and I really want to feel that, he has my back, and that he's there for me, and I want to be there for him. And you start talking about like real feelings and real things you desire from another person, to me, then you have a real conversation. But I think that when a person could get confused by the word independent because they might not know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because why shouldn't a woman be independent? Is it okay for a man to be independent? Can a woman be independent too? And you might not mean it, in a certain way that it might be misunderstood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a simple definition. If
Well,
you're in
how
a
did you mean
relationship,
it?
you're not independent. You're dependent.
How did you mean it, Charles?
Word.
No, go on. How did you mean it? How did you mean it?
I mean, so like when I look at relationships, I look at it as it's a partnership. Obviously it is a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
Like what you may lack in, I will fill that up. So for example, so so the girl that I'm talking to, right, she has encountered some issues, right? And she comes to me, or came to me for some time, and was like, hey, like she would just say like, she's going through hard times or whatever. And I wouldn't ask what she needs. I just was like, I know you're going through this here, and even if it's the smallest things, like she may see like, oh, I want this or I want that, and I would just like, all right, here, like I'll take care of it for you. And she would tell me like, that does a lot for me because I can focus on what I need to focus on, and whatever like little miscellaneous personal stuff I may want, like you've taken care of it. So it's those little things. So when I talk about independent, it's that mentality of feeling like I said, you don't need that partner. Like you don't need that person.
Right. You're not fully vulnerable.
What'd you say, Russ?
I said that person's not fully vulnerable.
The person who's being independent.
Right.
And
because it goes to like, even when like for men, even when it's like, we all know that it's hard for a man to come out, especially a black man, to come out and say, hey, I need help.
Right.
So it like a woman is kind of now to that point where it's like they're more like, hey, but I think theirs is more like because it's just been embedded in them just from stuff that they've consumed. Well,
do you mean like maybe how they grew up, or their past relationships, or
growing up? Because I started really thinking about it. Like I really looked into the depths of it. Like I looked at it as, okay, when a woman says that she doesn't need a man, you have a child, you say, okay, I don't need the father. Like some women have said that, like, I don't need the father Debbie, whatever, this and the third. Now what you're doing is you are now installing this mindset onto the kid. If it's a girl, the girl's going to be like growing up, seeing her mother like, she doesn't need a man. Men ain't nothing but,
right.
Men ain't shit, so all of a sudden that girl's going to grow up having that same mentality. And then she's going to look at every man and look at them like they're not nothing. So she may be passing up on a potential blessing, just like the mother did, because her mindset is just like, all men ain't nothing.
Yeah, I hear you. And I understand what you're saying. I'm saying about that word, just like any word, like I'm not even thinking about money when I hear that word. I'm not thinking about like what you guys brought up. I'm aligned and feel what you're talking about. No, I'm saying separately, what you brought up separately. Like I understand when I hear that word, I'm thinking, can I be my own person? And can I have my own thoughts? And what'd you say?
That's a given.
No, I'm just saying that the word can be misinterpreted. The meaning of the word. Well, I mean, we all.
I'm just being, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just saying, like, what I mean? If somebody says, yo, that's air out there, you should breathe that. And they be like, but what do you mean by air?
No,
I mean, air, bro. Like, I don't mean independent. Are you independent or are you
I have heard that word from different people, and I'm always thinking, and I don't mean just men, I mean friends, just I'm always thinking like, what do you mean by that word? So, I come from my own life experience, and, we all come from a life experience, and, the way we say something can be just taken the wrong way. So that's all. Especially if you're a woman and, a woman could be thinking, a lot of things about sexism and all of that. So go ahead.
I think that's why, like, for the longest, I've been holding off on a series that I've wanted to do, because I know that what I like, how I may word certain things, like you said, most people will take it different ways, so I want to.
What'd you say?
I think you should just have a lot of conversations with women. Like the whole series should be you talking to different women that are related to you in a different way. Like some can be family, some can be platonic, some can be exes, some can be people you're romantically involved with. And then you can take all of that data and actually have something there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But independent means independent, guys. Everybody knows.
No, it doesn't.
You're in a relationship.
No, it doesn't.
Exactly what you said. It's teamwork. It's a partnership.
I agree.
You can't go into a relationship with somebody and say you don't need that person. You have to be vulnerable.
No, I totally agree.
Independent. So if you're a woman that comes into a relationship and you say I'm an independent woman, then to me, I think you mean that you're independent and you don't need me.
No, if I'm in a relationship with a man and he tells me that I'm too independent, I don't know what he means. I want to know what he means. If he means what you're saying, then I'm thinking that we need better communication and I need to convey how I feel. But my thought is not along those lines. Like my thought is that,
so what do you think?
You have a problem with me, and because a lot of women, especially Black women, are thought to, be opinionated, quote unquote, and now sexuality, especially around your ages, women are, and younger women are owning their sexuality in new ways. That could, I'm wondering, do you mean that, and what's wrong with that? In my mind, like, what's wrong with that? But, so I don't know what you mean when you say independent.
I heard a bunch of different words that didn't have anything to do with independent.
Well, I just tried to explain.
I heard self-sufficient. I heard all these other words. Can I have my own voice? That has nothing to do with being independent. I'm not even picking on you. I just
don't understand. I'm just saying. I'm going to these things.
But you don't hear guys come into a relationship with his women. I'm an independent man. Like,
listen, just like we have microaggressions when it comes to race, women deal with microaggressions when it comes to sexism. So the alarm bells can, the flags can go up, the alarms can go off when we hear certain words.
To all the people that'll hear this, it's not that I have any issue with women or anything. I have an issue with people and definitions. Like I perfect, like that's just my thing. It's like I don't make up new definitions for words just because I want to.
Well, independent is applied to different things.
No, I'm not even talking about how you are interpreting it. I think you're right in feeling how you feel because that's how you feel. But I'm just saying, like, people will make a new argument out of something by making up their own definition to a word that's clearly defined.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well,
independent is a clear definition. It's not something that should really confuse you. Now, the way you applied it, no, I get what you're saying. The way you applied it to a conversation and where your brain can go is totally valid. So if a man is using the word independent in the wrong way, then that would make your whole situation valid. But I think when we talk about people being independent, not just women, just anybody being independent, it is showing that you do not need. It is exclusionary. It's an exclusionary term. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
If you're at work and you're like, "Hey, I'm independent," I'm like, "All right, you're not saying that
independent." Like in my job, you might hear investigation, or study, and you might hear, because I'm covering cities, you might hear independent investigation,
right?
Outside investigation, so objective. The point of something that's independent is objectivity in that case,
because it's exclusionary, right?
Well, the point is, I understand your point. I'm not I wouldn't use that word, but you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
All right. I'm good.
But I want to say that it's so interesting because we're from different generations, and I wrote this book when on relationships, in the 90s, and that was when like Waiting to Exhale was out, and relationships, the movie and everything, and relationships were such a big deal. And so it's so interesting, how relationships are being talked about now. And also, it's always the same. To me, romance is the same. Between two people, it's the same. And so it comes down to communication and, our two people willing to share, to be vulnerable. Like I think you mentioned that word before.
That's
and to share their hearts, and what they really feel. And, I know I can't help it if a person isn't willing to do that, and I'm willing to do it.
Can't do that independently. That's all I'm saying.
No. Yeah. Yeah,
And
you're
be
right.
independent. And be
You're
all
right in this case.
I'm saying. Listen.
Yeah.
I know
In
what I'm
this
talking
case,
about.
you can't, you know, so I'm saying to what circling back to you, Charles, and you know, two people, and regardless of the rhetoric and everything, you know, that two people might have in a conversation, or the bravado, you know, that a woman might have or a man might have. It really comes down to, are they willing to really be vulnerable with each other?
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, thank you for doing this. We took a couple of different routes, but I like the conversation.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, Charles, let people know how they can reach you on social media when you're on there.
I'm about to say you can't, you can't get in contact with me right now. You can't. It's
really.
I'm
You're
like LeBron
right now.
I'm like LeBron in the playoffs. I went 0 dark 30.
Okay. Are you going to come back out?
Yeah. I just don't win.
Right.
Win,
so
but,
do you want to just withhold that information today?
I mean,
if they want your podcast, if they want to see any of your work, we could just leave you a mystery.
You can just go to my YouTube channel. It's literally my name. It's Charles Gilbert.
Okay.
So there you will see any reaction videos that I have. The podcast is up there. So in the meantime, right now it's still up there. Royal Club is up there. And other projects that I've done. Like there's other videos that I will be doing leading up to the first episode of Conversations with Chi that is going to kind of allude to where I'm going at, what angle I'm going with that show. Would
you like to do that this year? Conversations with Chi?
I would like to. There's just like 3 little things that I need done. One of them has to involve a friend of Russ's.
Oh yeah.
That's literally it. It's just a matter of just getting some of the small details ironed out. But yeah, I want to go into the fall releasing it. So
okay. And so Russ, are your talents exclusive to me and Charles, or are we sharing?
Man, we're working on it. We're working on it. I'm a dad, America.
What'd you say?
I'm a father, America. I have a high school up and coming freshman, and I got a 6-year-old up and coming first grader. So you know.
Yes.
I want to do stuff. I'm always available on this tip, though.
Yeah.
Somebody wants me to do something down.
Well, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Always.
Thank you for joining us. Let me know what you think about this conversation that we just had. Give me your take. You can reach me at Let's Start Healing Podcast at gmail.com. You can also reach me on social media, on Instagram at Let's Start Healing Podcast or Adrianne Marie 19. Let me know. And until next time, let's start healing.